Have you ever faced a choice where one path looked obviously better, greener, and more prosperous than the other? A choice where everything in you wanted to grab the immediate advantage? Today, we're diving into a powerful story about two men, two choices, and two very different destinies. It's a story that asks a question we all face: will you trust what you can see, or will you trust what God has promised? This story begins with a return. After a difficult season in Egypt, a time filled with fear and compromise, Abram began his journey back to the land God had shown him. And he wasn't coming back empty-handed. The Bible says Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. He traveled with his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all their massive possessions. But this was more than just a geographical return, it was a spiritual one. Abram traveled back to the exact place between Bethel and Ai where he had first built an altar. He returned to the place of worship, the place where he had first called on the name of the Lord. There's something incredibly powerful about returning to your altar. Life can sometimes lead us into our own Egypts, seasons of distraction, fear, or wandering away from God's presence. But grace always makes a way back. And Abram didn't just return to a piece of land, he returned to a posture of worship. As Abram prospered, so did his nephew Lot. The blessing on Abram's life had overflowed, and Lot also had flocks, herds, and tents. But with this shared blessing came a new problem: the land couldn't support both of them. Their possessions had grown so large that there wasn't enough pasture, not enough water. What was once abundant now felt scarce. And then, strife broke out. The herdsmen of Abram and the herdsmen of Lot began to argue. And the Bible adds this crucial detail: the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. In other words, the world was watching. This family conflict wasn't private. The surrounding nations could see the tension among God's people. Abram understood that blessing should never be the thing that destroys brotherhood. So, he approached Lot, not with pride or authority, but with incredible humility. He said, "Let there be no strife between you and me, for we are relatives." Notice what Abram doesn't say. He doesn't pull rank. He doesn't say, "I'm the elder," or "God called me, this promise is mine." Instead, he chooses peace over his position. Then he makes an astonishing offer. "Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left." Think about that. Abram, the one with the covenant, the one with the promise from God, gives his nephew first choice. This is the posture of someone who trusts God completely. Because when you know that God is your source, you don't have to fight over resources. When you know God is your provider, you don't have to scramble for temporary advantage. Abram deeply believed that wherever he ended up, God's blessing would be with him. So, the choice fell to Lot. And the Bible says Lot lifted up his eyes. That phrase is so important. He looked, and he saw the plain of the Jordan. It was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. It looked fertile, prosperous, and easy. The grass was literally greener on that side. The opportunity seemed obvious. But appearances can be dangerously deceptive. Lot saw the lush plains, but what he overlooked was what lay nearby, the city of Sodom, a place already infamous for its wickedness. The Bible says the men of Sodom were exceedingly sinful against the Lord. Lot saw the water, he saw the prosperity, he saw the immediate gain. He didn't seem to consider the spiritual environment he was choosing for himself and his family. So, Lot chose the entire plain of the Jordan for himself and journeyed east. The two men separated. Abram remained in the land of Canaan, the land God had promised, even if it didn't look as appealing at that moment. And Lot? He pitched his tent toward Sodom. Notice that detail. He didn't move into the city right away. He just pitched his tent facing it. Spiritual decline often begins not with a big leap into sin, but with a small shift in direction. It starts by positioning yourself closer to compromise, getting comfortable with its presence. But then, after Lot had separated from him, something incredible happened. The Lord spoke to Abram again. Sometimes, a separation is necessary for a new revelation. God said to Abram, "Lift up your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward, for all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever." Do you see the powerful contrast? Lot lifted his eyes to choose for himself based on what looked good. Abram lifted his eyes because God told him to look. Lot saw a temporary gain. Abram received an eternal promise. God expanded his vision, saying, "I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered." Remember, at this point, Abram had no children. Not a single one. Yet God was promising him a family so vast it couldn't be counted. This is what faith is. It's living in the reality of God's promise before you see the proof. Then God gave him an instruction: "Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. Walk it. Claim it by faith, even before you hold the deed." So Abram moved his tent and settled by the oaks of Mamre and Hebron. And what did he do there? He built another altar to the Lord. Worship. It's the consistent pattern of Abram's life. A tent, an altar. A journey, an altar. A separation, an altar. Lot was busy building his wealth. Abram was busy building his worship. Lot chose what looked prosperous. Abram trusted what was promised. This story isn't just about dividing land. It's a story about the choices that define our lives. It asks us, will we choose what looks good to our eyes, or what God has spoken to our hearts? Will we grasp for the best visible option, or will we trust that our obedience positions us for God's best? Abram gave up first choice and, in the end, gained everything. Lot took first choice and moved his family toward destruction. The lesson is profound. Sometimes choosing peace will cost you your preference. Sometimes choosing humility will cost you a temporary advantage. But trusting in God always pays greater dividends in the long run. When you truly trust God's promise, you don't have to fight for your portion. You can be generous. You can be peaceful. You can let others go first, knowing that your security isn't in a specific location or opportunity. Your security is in God Himself. He can bless you on the left, He can bless you on the right. He can bless you in the valley or on the mountain. True blessing isn't about what you possess, it's about your alignment with the one who possesses everything. Abram aligned himself with peace, humility, and faith. Lot aligned himself with appearance and personal gain. Their stories branch out from this single choice, and we see the consequences play out for generations. So let this be an encouragement to you today. Choose faith over sight. Choose peace over pride. Choose God's promise over the pressure of the moment. Because God always sees a bigger picture than we do. If this story has spoken to you, if it's encouraged you to keep your eyes on the promise, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the powerful stories of the Bible. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.